Considering home security? Consider this. For 140 years, ADT has helped stop more crime than any other home security company. The yard sign isn't just a sign, it's a line in the sand. It's no wonder 5 times more people choose ADT to protect their homes. Visit ADT.com to learn more. For license information and terms and conditions, visit ADT.com.
Here we are. Good morning. Mike and Mike back in better than ever on ESPN Radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance, and our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Towards the weekend we turn with a plethora of interesting stories in the news today and a good game in the NFL tonight. Steelers and Titans will kick off Week 11. Golic, we got a lot to get to this morning. How are we doing?
I'm doing well, and so much to get to of current sports and so many nice tweets out there to you and I about, the end of this 18-year run, which ends tomorrow. It's great. So many people making me actually remember a lot of the things. I was just reading one reminiscing about Hat, Shirt, and Media Guide.
Oh, yeah.
When we did that contest and gave somebody, was exactly it. If they won, they got either a hat, a shirt, or a media guide that happened to be laying around the office somewhere. They got no choice in it. We just decided what to send them. And a lot of times it was a media guide off of somebody's desk. That was a lot of fun. That brought us. I had forgotten about that. I mean, 18 years. There's no way I unfortunately, I have trouble remembering anyway who I played against sometimes. That was a good memory because that was a lot of fun to do.
If anything best sums up the progression of the show is that we began by sending people like the, Northern Illinois volleyball media guide.
We did.
And we ultimately started sending people to Hawaii to the NBA finals and all that kind of stuff. And again, it is all because of all of you guys. I mean, we just sat here and did the best that we could, but you guys who chose to get up with us in the morning, first on the radio and then eventually on the TV and all the other ways now that you could access our show, you were the ones who gave us the opportunity to do all the stuff that we've done. So we'll never be able to say thank you enough. I think that the people who, particularly Megan and Ray and everyone else who's been working to put together all of these thank yous, they've been scrolling people's names and they've been sending out gift packages and all things like that. It's terrific.
Oh, it is.
And it's not nearly enough, but it was I think the best that we could come up with.
I'm glad that we're doing that. I'm glad we're thanking the right people, the people for tuning in. There's no way this lasts without them tuning in on radio and or TV. And because you tuned in, then the ratings were good and they made more money, so we were able to spend it on you guys. Right. To go from, the Northern Illinois volleyball media guide to send you to Hawaii. So it worked out for everybody.
That first one, remember the first trip we gave away was Hawaii. And remember the days when we would go do the show at people's houses?
Oh, I loved those. I loved doing that.
We went to this people's house in New Jersey and they set this thing up in the backyard and the woman was cooking for us.
It was great.
It was fun.
Absolutely awesome.
Yeah. Look, there's no way that we could sit here and I remember everything and Golic remembers almost nothing. And,
there you go.
And B, even I can't go through 18 years of memories that fast, but we'll do the best we can.
Yeah, we will.
And we will cover the sports news of the day, and there's a lot of it today. So let's dive in here. We'll start with the Sixers beating the Lakers last night in a matchup of a whole bunch of really good young players. And of those, the one who stood out by far was Joel Embiid.
This guy, I mean, you look at the Sixers from the time that he missed to the time that Simmons missed last year to Markelle Fultz missing now. It's almost like the rite of passage for the 76ers is you have to miss at least your rookie year. Joel Embiid, I don't even know what to say. This guy is the millennial mold NBA player because he's a social media wizard. He's fantastic on social media. He loves social media. He's got a great personality. The personality reminds me of, because a lot of times you see those 7-footers sometimes not have that, but Shaq had that all the time.
Yep.
This guy has that bright, hey, I'm a 7-footer, I'm digging it. I love this personality to the tune of 46 points, 15 rebounds, 7 assists, 7 blocks. He was 2 or 3 from three-point land last night. And to me, one of the more impressive things for a big man, 16 of 19 from the free throw line. I mean, that dude has got it all. Didn't Ramona Shelburne, I think she had a tweet out that said that he just Euro-stepped around, Andrew Bogut. She said, that is all. I mean, this dude is a 7-footer, and what he can do is incredible. This was it Ben Simmons, who was right just short of a triple-double? Obviously, Lonzo Ball always looked at every time the Lakers play. This was Joel Embiid. This was him. He is a star.
I have been saying it for some time. if you could guarantee me that he was going to stay healthy, I would take him over any other young player in the NBA. I'll take him over Anthony Davis. I'll take him over Karl Anthony Towns. I'll take him over Kristaps Porzingis. And they're all great. This is not to knock any of them. But I believe the best of them is Embiid. The problem with any of the bigs is you always worry about injury.
You do.
And with him, we've seen it like crazy. I mean, he played 31 games his first 3 years. So there's every reason in the world to be worried about it. But if you could promise me he was going to stay healthy, I would take him over any of them.
We can't, but I like the big men, the young guys. Karl Anthony Towns just turned 22 yesterday.
Yeah.
22. Had 26 points, 16 rebounds. I mean, he just turned 22.
The league is filled with ridiculous young
off the top
talent.
And then there's older talent.
Well done.
There you go.
Jinx. LeBron James and company trailing in Charlotte last night and then coming back and getting the win.
They trailed at halftime in this one. It's the 11th time they've trailed at halftime this season, tied with the Lakers for the most in the NBA. Of the 5 teams, though, that have trailed at half at least 10 times, the Cavaliers are the only team with a winning record. So they're trailing at halftime, but they still have a winning record. And LeBron's winning record against, Charlotte is ridiculous. And what was he, 24-1? He's 20-0 against Kemba Walker, as well. And a lot of it he credits. They're the oldest team. They do, by average age, have the oldest team in the league. We're not just joking about that. They've kind of changed. Did you see their travel pattern?
Yes.
When they have a chance now, a lot of times, this is true, and certainly in football, right after you play the game, you take off. Now, baseball, basketball, hockey, they're longer road trips, so it can be a little different. But they have started to, if they can, spend the night after a game and not just get right on a plane and take off. They'd go back to the hotel, supposedly get a good night's sleep, wake up in the morning, and then fly out. And they said, he said we're older players. They changed that itinerary, and they think it works pretty well.
I don't mean to scoff. I don't want to sound like one of these back in my day.
Right.
But how many players have we had on the air who played in the 70s and the 80s who said they would get up the next morning and fly out because there wasn't a flight after their game, and they'd be going through regular security, and you'd see them hanging out at the Cinnabon at the airport, and they'd be connecting from one city to another and have a game that night.
By the way, it's a great place to hang out at Cinnabon. There's no doubt about that.
All things considered. If you're going to be in an airport, obviously you're going to go to the Cinnabon, but that's neither here nor there. Celtics and Warriors tonight. That's a good one. Boston goes in with a 13-game winning streak, and so right now, is this, Mike, a preview of the NBA Finals?
A lot of people may say that, but we know the winning streak going on right now. It'll level off at some point, but it is incredibly impressive after the 0-2 start where they lost Gordon Hayward in Game 1. The Warriors, by the way, entered the game on a 7-game winning streak. It's the second longest active streak in the NBA. Each of those 7 wins have come, by the way, by double digits. So since Kerr has taken over the Warriors, the Celtics have played them 6 times and have been outscored by just a little over 2 points per game. So they've been competitive games, and Boston's playing about as competitive as you can right now. 13 wins in a row, and efficiency, the best defense in the league.
Off the top.
Well, baseball, and the Cy Young Awards went out yesterday, and no surprises. Again, Max Scherzer wins the National League Cy, and Corey Kluber of Golic's Indians wins the American League Award.
With Scherzer, there was a thought of Kershaw, but he missed so much time, and what Scherzer was able to do, now his 3rd Cy Young, 2 in the National League, 1 in the American League, the 6th pitcher in NL history to win the Cy Young Award in consecutive seasons, 1st pitcher in Nationals Expos franchise history to win multiple Cy Youngs. You say that about Corey Kluber as well, first for the Indians to win multiple Cy Youngs. He was a guy in Corey Kluber that was 3-2 with just over a 5 ERA at the end of May. He'd missed almost a month with a strained lower back from June 1st till the end of the regular season. He was number 1 in just about every category there was. Unfortunately for Kluber and Scherzer, they both lost, winner-take-all games
in the first round of the playoffs. The American League Award was Chris Sale's for much of the year.
Yeah, it was.
And then Kluber just went on, as you say, went on a tear and passed him and wound up with the hardware. And then, as I mentioned, we got a good NFL game tonight to kick off Week 11. It will be the Steelers and the Titans, a matchup of 2 top-level AFC teams.
Yeah, and Ben is big on these nights. He's 18-3 at home in primetime in his career and has won the last 6 home primetime starts. He's 5-0 on Thursday night games. And listen, it's been a crapshoot. We've gotten some really good Thursday night games this year, and we certainly got some bad ones as well as the the talk about Thursday night games and their value goes on and on and on. But this is, a game with, Tennessee's on a 4-game winning streak right now. Marcus Mariota still, it gets mentioned so much, but in my eyes, not enough. This guy, since he's come into the league, has not thrown a red zone interception. I mean, when you need it the most, when you don't want the turnover the most, he has not done it. When his team has been in a scoring position, they're mostly scoring because he is not turning the ball over in the red zone. It's really impressive.
And that, my friends, is Off the Top with Mike and Mike. It's what everyone's talking about. It's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day. Just quickly on the Thursday night thing, because Ben joined the loud chorus of players this week talking about how much they hate playing on Thursday nights. I'm sure you saw those quotes. Earlier in the week, and I've been holding this story we haven't gotten to it. It's been in the list of stuff for the last couple of days. But as Chris Mortensen over the weekend said, quote, I think we're going to see a possibility of Thursday night games being reduced to the back end of the schedule again, with more Saturday night games mixed in on the nights that colleges don't play in December. He added, we'll probably have expanded playoffs too. So, I mean, the bottom line of it is, we always, whenever we refer to Thursday night football, what do we always say? Well, but they're making a lot of money, and the players get a bunch of that money too. But is it short end money that in the long run is hurting them? I think that if they change this, it will not be because, in my opinion, because the players are complaining about it. It will be because they determine that one of the problems they have right now is their Sunday slate just isn't what it used to be, because you're trying to take one really good game and put it on Thursday night. Right. You want to have a good game there. Sure. And then you're trying to put a good game on Sunday night and you're trying to put a good game on Monday night. Right. How many good games do you have?
Well, I mean, then are you just shifting, chairs on the Titanic? You're moving a Thursday game to Saturday. If you're trying to move a really good game from Thursday to a really good game on Saturday, then you have a really good game on Saturday. You want a really good game on Sunday night. You want a really good game on Monday.
But that will only be at the end of it. They're not going to play Saturday games all year long.
No. My point is, the beginning of the year, you're not talking about not playing a week going by and there not being a game on a Thursday or a Saturday, are you?
Yes, they are. That's what Mort is talking about.
I thought at the back end,
Thursday night games being reduced to the back end of the schedule again. Remember that it used to be that they would only start having Thursday nights somewhere into the year.
I read that wrong. I thought it was going to be Thursday games up until halfway point of the season, or to the point where colleges aren't on Saturday nights anymore, and then those would shift to Saturday night games. Am I reading that wrong?
I'm just reading the quote directly. Someone sent Mort a note. The last couple of days he's been up listening because he sent me notes. So, Mort, if you're listening,
maybe I'm misunderstanding that. I didn't think there was going to be any less games on Thursday or Saturday. I just thought they were going to shift so you would get more rest. Basically, that's, from the player side of it, you'd go Sunday to Saturday instead of Sunday to Thursday. I thought the first part up till around now would still be Thursdays, and then once we got past the college Saturday, those games would be pushed to Saturday night. That's
the way I'm reading it, because he says a possibility of Thursday night games being reduced to the back end of the schedule again, with more Saturday night games mixed in, meaning even fewer Thursday nights. They'll play it Saturday.
That's how it was. Thursday. That's how it was. It was half the season basically.
I honestly don't. Let's find out from Mort, because maybe I shouldn't have assumed that. You and I read it separately, right? And I don't know which one of us is right. Yeah. I'm just reading quotes. So let's try and get a hold of Mort, and we'll see what he has to say. In the meantime, I did want to start today just with two NFL stories, because I think they are interesting. You have the battle lines now being very clearly drawn in the NFL between the league and the Cowboys. Mm-hmm. I'm not talking about the other owners and the Cowboys, the league and the Cowboys. And then you have Ezekiel Elliott and his camp and the Players Association withdrawing their appeal, and he will now serve the full suspension. He previously had a hearing scheduled for December 1st, and I saw Shefty on TV basically explaining it. By the time December 1st comes, he will already have served 4 of the 6 games. Right. By the time the court were to make a decision on it, he likely would have served at least 5 of the 6 games. So at that point, what are we even bothering to fight this for? So he's just going to take the suspension, unhappily, as we all know, sit. He's eligible to come back now December 24th.
Well, there's 2 different ways to look at this. I'm sure the union would have rather he kept fighting. Because, again, the debate that went on was, and I understand it, because there's a Zeke side, there's a Dallas Cowboys side, there's a union side, and there's a league side. There's a lot of sides to this. And basically a lot of people thought, I was one of them, just from the quick Dallas Cowboy thought, serve it from game 1 to game 6. Get it done. Get it out of the way. But I completely understand the union wanting to fight because that's the only way the union has to fight right now. Individual players can fight by holding out, and we see players have done that. Aaron Donald held out to week 1. Dwayne Brown held out to week 8 from the Texans, and then got traded to Seattle. That's a player's leverage. In this, where it's players and union versus the league, this is player versus the league, the union can get involved, but only in the courts. That's the only really place they can fight it now. So they want to fight it because they'd see a win, but then it'd be a loss. They'd see a win and be a loss. But they said, we have to keep going there and keep trying. And they were trying here. We saw the back and forth. It got to be almost lunacy when we were talking about it. We didn't know if Zeke was playing or not. So I get Zeke being tired of it and saying, let me just serve this thing. But I would understand from the union side, we need to keep, this is our only battleground is the court system right now, and we'd like to keep fighting it there. But at some point, I mean, Zeke could just turn to DeMaurice Smith and the union and say, listen, we've been doing this. I've been behind you guys. I've been with you. We've been fighting it back and forth, and I'm losing again and again after looks like a victory. It's one step forward, 2 steps back. I'm just going to serve it. So I get it. I get why Zeke wants to do it, but I would also understand why the union would want to keep fighting.
Here's the union statement, quote, "Our vigilant fight on behalf of Ezekiel once again exposed the NFL's disciplinary process as a sham and a lie. They hired several former federal prosecutors, brought in experts, and imposed a process with a stated goal of getting it right. Yet the Management Council refuses to step in and stop repeated manipulation of an already awful league-imposed system." So the point is, at a time when we now have all this other stuff going on and the controversy around this and that, and it looked for a minute there like Roger Goodell was on the player's side in one thing, and maybe that would be the beginning of a little bit of a thawing. You have once again the words being used by the Players Association, a sham and a lie.
Yeah, listen.
And we're right back where we started.
We are, because they want to always spin it. You know, that's how this works. You spin it that what looks in your favor. The bottom line is they lost again in court, and they were going to lose again in court. And unfortunately, they know that's their battleground right now, and they try to look for that silver lining, that crack in the armor, that way to get the win, and they got a couple of them. But ultimately, we all thought this. Ultimately, that Zeke was going to serve that suspension. I get the union trying to spin it. I do. But the league wins. The league wins with Article 46 and will continue to in these particular cases. But I'll go on to say that when the CBA is being negotiated and the players want to dig their heels in about something, it won't be about Article 46 because it doesn't affect enough of the players. Of the 2,000 players that need to be represented, it affects a very small amount of those that are disciplined by the commissioner. So that won't be the fight worth saying I'm going to miss time for. It will be other things involved in that.
Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Last year, over 3 million drivers switched to Progressive. Call or click today. Find out if you could save. And then there is the sternly worded letter. And this one does not come from Arthur Blank, and it does not come from Robert Kraft, and it does not come from Stephen Ross. It comes from the office of the National Football League, which is interesting because ultimately who signs that letter? I don't actually know who signs it, but we all know it comes ultimately from the desk of Roger Goodell.
What a circle this is.
Isn't it? Yeah. So the NFL has sent a letter to Cowboys owner Jerry Jones accusing him of conduct detrimental to the league's best interest. The letter accuses Jones of sabotaging negotiations over a contract extension for Commissioner Roger Goodell. Jones threatened to sue the NFL if Goodell's extension was approved by the compensation committee made up of 6 owners. And our Jim Trotter puts it as bluntly as it can be put as to what the league is saying to Jerry Jones.
Basically, the league is trying to tell Jerry to shut up. And we know Jerry is not going to shut up. The league is basically saying to him that your conduct could be considered detrimental to our business. And in that case, you would be subject to discipline. If you know Jerry Jones, he's never been afraid of a fight. And in this case, I cannot see Jerry backing off from this. In fact, I can tell you there are owners who, as far back as March, had some concerns about Roger Goodell's contract. So while Jerry is not popular among owners right now because of what he's taking the league through, there are some owners who agree that Roger Goodell's contract should be reviewed and restructured.
Okay, so we haven't even gotten to the best part of this as far as I'm concerned. So think of how this goes. It's Jerry Jones fighting against the other owners, and we'll see. You wonder if other owners will start to say, you know, maybe we're going to hold off on this contract extension thing. But it's one owner against the other owners, especially Arthur Blank. They're talking about serving papers to one another. So now, as you mentioned, it's the league serving Jerry Jones, basically saying conduct detrimental, which part of it you can be ousted as an owner. That's not going to happen. He's not going to be ousted as an owner. But there can be penalties for this. And according to, this is the beauty. And under the league constitution in Article 8, Section 8.13, Roger Goodell has the authority to administer those penalties.
That's phenomenal.
It is. You can't make this up. It's unreal.
Can you imagine if Goodell fines Jerry Jones for conduct detrimental for interfering in Goodell's own contract extension?
Awesome.
That really, I mean, you want to talk about the ultimate, we brought this up with Cuban the other day, the dichotomy of that relationship, where Jones is both, he is both subservient to and the boss of Roger Goodell. And so Goodell can actually fine him or discipline him in some way. And boy, do I hope he does. For his conduct detrimental, just to see what would happen as a result. If you want to see a human being's head actually explode, then you might see that in the office of Jerry Jones if he receives a letter notifying him of a $100,000 fine based upon his conduct detrimental to the league.
Is that just unbelievable? I mean, Roger Goodell's theme song should be, I got the power.
He does.
I mean, seriously, man.
Song here. What's a good? I don't.
That's the song. We got to get that song. I mean, it's
I need
unreal.
a song that has some kind of power.
Holy
and I don't even. What have I got here?
Well,
the closest I've got.
Oh, that's great. Stanzik just wrote it up. Goodell should fine Jerry $49.5 million.
Oh my God! And use of his plane, and health insurance for the rest of his life, which the players don't get, even though they suffer all kinds of horrible injuries and are limping and have all that kind of stuff. But they don't get health insurance for the rest of their lives. Anyway, it's too delicious. That's why I wanted to start there. It really is.
Hey, everyone, Mike Golic here. Support for the Mike and Mike podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org number 3030.
Computer, execute 12.4p operation.
Optimizing algorithm. Running encryption packet alpha. Night. Oh, I don't feel so good.
What is it, computer?
Is it hot in here? It feels hot in here. I feel a little clammy. I should lie down or something.
A computer with a virus? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
Those oysters Rockefeller were a mistake.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
All right, Sal Pal on the way, and Sean Payton today, and Nick Saban, another hilarious Nick Saban yesterday. Did you see his business with the jeans?
What about the faded and ripped jeans? It was really good.
I'm going to play it for you coming up in a little bit here. And we got Stugatz and Trey and Shefty and others coming up. Another reminder also that 30 for 30 podcasts are back. Stories you have to hear to believe. Subscribe now in the Listen tab of the ESPN app or Apple Podcasts, presented by Mini. Okay, I have been following, as you have, and we all have, with great interest, the story of the three UCLA basketball players, most famously LiAngelo Ball of the famed Ball family in basketball, coming back to the United States after the incident in China. And I'm sure most of you by now have had a chance to see the players' apologies. Mm-hmm. They did mention the president, for whatever that's worth. He had brought up that he wondered if they would. They did, and other things like that. But for the purposes of our discussion here, I think that the most interesting part of it is, what do you do? We talked about it yesterday. What do you do if you're the school? And initially what they've done is they have suspended each of the players indefinitely. Here's head coach Steve Alford on that.
These young men are going to have to prove their words and actions that this isn't who they are and that they will not let their identity be defined by this incident. I know Jello, Cody, and Jalen well. And I'm confident that they have already begun to use this experience as a life lesson. They're going to have to regain the trust of this athletic department, of this university. And because this was such a high-profile international matter, the trust of the general public. Trust is earned. It isn't just given. These three young men will remain suspended indefinitely from our program as we work through the review process with the university's Office of Student Conduct.
Well, it was one of the later things we had brought up when we were trying to put a number to it yesterday. One of the last things we brought up was the indefinite suspension. And just you know what? We'll let you know when you're back. You just keep flying right or doing what you need to do to get back in our good graces, and we'll let you know. It could be one game, could be 10 games, could be the whole year. I guess that's the whole thing is you don't know. What I didn't know is that they did it in 3 stores. I thought they were in the one store and they tried to boost a pair of sunglasses and got caught. And I thought that was the end of it. I didn't know it was like their 3rd store, that they had done it in 3 different stores. I did not know that.
The AD said that yesterday, yeah.
The AD did say that UCLA admits the kids shoplifted from 3 stores. So, and I'm sure, and I know they were getting calls from big money boosters, I'm sure weighing in with their thoughts on it. And a lot of people think it'll be anywhere from at least a half a season to a full season. I did not know it was multiple stores. It's one of those where you go in, maybe you think about, try to shoplift something, you get caught, and then all of a sudden you're sorry for everything. Here, it's your 3rd store. I mean,
So that changes it for you?
I think it does change it a little bit for me. I don't know if people think it should or it shouldn't, but I did not know that part of it. It would not surprise me if they don't play this year. It would not surprise me at all.
So I feel like that's a change. What changed for you from yesterday?
Well, I think
feel like yesterday you had a very different tone.
Well, no, I wouldn't have minded if it was a whole year. I would have thought maybe double-digit games. I would have thought that. For some reason, I guess just like – and I do understand when you do it overseas, out of the country, there can be more ramifications for the kids, and certainly the embarrassment is more worldwide, not just in your country. I get that, but the point I was making is you're stealing. How should that be treated? But there is the one, to me, I guess, there's the multiple stores that you just did it again, and did it again, and there was just something about me. I didn't know that. It just kind of made me go, about that. And now, if it's a half a season, am I going to rant and rave? I'm not going to rant and rave. No, it's not my team, not my players. But I think it will be and should be and that's what we all do. I mean, that's our job to kind of do that. But as Herm said, we shouldn't get to discipline other people's kids, and I get that. But it's not like what I say has any meaning of what they're going to do. But I would think it would be at least a half. I would agree with those that are saying it will be anywhere from a half a season to a full year, and would not shock me at all if it's a full year.
Yeah, our Arash Markazi covering the story suggests that is what he's hearing as well.
There is an ongoing internal debate amongst university officials about what that means. Again, what we found out this evening, it is going to be anywhere from half a season to a full season. But they are really debating this. There are people who think that they should be suspended the entire season, and then there's a fraction who believes that they should be suspended for half a season. And again, half a season would get them back on the court by the beginning of conference play. So we'll find out soon how long indefinite means.
And what's interesting for this, there's different ways of doing indefinite. You're still in the facility, you're still practicing, you're still doing everything associated with the team. These guys are not. They are not practicing.
My understanding is that is while the university completes its own investigation.
At some point, I would imagine that would change, and while they wouldn't play in games or travel, they may still start to get practicing.
I think that's right.
I guess to add to it, my thought is if you're in a store – do you get that? He's like, hey, let's take these. Kind of a impulsive, ha type of a thing. I guess that's my difference of one place, but then it wasn't an impulse because you went and did it in 3 stores. So I guess that's why it just seems like a little more to me about that. So I think I would understand that. Again, I would not. I don't believe I. Now, listen, the school may get involved from the school side of it and do something. That I have no idea about. Every school has their code of conduct, and then you go through your review board and that whole thing, and we have to wait and see how that goes. But from the sports side of it, I really don't think I would be taking their scholarships away. But I do think that they would be sitting a long time.
I honestly don't know one thing, and that is if these weren't 3 basketball players, because all these universities, major universities like UCLA and like Notre Dame and like Northwestern and all the rest of them, they have all these foreign exchange. I keep using that term. That's not what I mean. Study abroad programs and different things where they go overseas, and you are in that circumstance representing your school.
Sure.
And I mean, in a very loose way, representing the country.
Right.
And so I don't know if these guys weren't basketball players and the same thing happened, what would the university do? Like, I'd like to know that, because that would inform how I would view this.
Well, then it would just go through your school's code of conduct. Right. You know, and that.
But what would they, so would that result in expulsion? If you were in China, if you're studying, there have to be thousands of American kids studying right now in China. Question. There have to be, from American universities all over the place. Right. And first of all, if any of them get arrested in China for stealing things, they might wind up in jail for a really long time.
They may not get back. But let's just say they get out, they get back.
What would they do? Would they get expelled? I mean, there's a part of me that wants to say I'd like to know that before I decide how this should be handled.
Well, let's remember then, quite honestly, wouldn't that take precedent? Maybe the school can accept. From the school side, maybe that's what could happen, and Steve Alford would have nothing to say about anything.
Right.
That's certainly one thing he could say right now is these guys aren't anywhere near the team until the school does their investigation, and then the school will handle this thing, and they'll determine their punishment before we even get to my punishment.
Right. And that's what I think that will happen. And so I'd like to know that before I decide what I think they should do. And the one last thought I would have on it is that I think they should not worry about the optics, because we have arrived at a place, to the point you were making earlier, and I'll take it a step farther, where no matter what they do, they're going to get crushed.
Without a doubt.
They're going to get criticized regardless of what decision they make, and that's the position these players have put them in, by the way. And so they should just do whatever they believe to be right and live with it. Because if they suspend him half a year, people will say, well, they're just trying to beat Kentucky, which is in the middle of their season, and win the Pac-12. If they suspend him for a whole year or throw them out of school, people will say, oh, they don't believe in second chances. Whatever it is, they will be criticized. Do whatever you think the right thing to do is and live with it. Put your name on it and live with it. And make sure the players know this is the position you've put us in.
Yeah. Oh, that's exactly right.
And that's the reality.
I want to send out my best wishes to Mike and Mike, my sincere appreciation for what they've done for this company and for sports fans everywhere, providing them a good reason to get up in the morning. All best wishes to them going forward. I have a good feeling that we're going to have a nice next chapter for both Mike and Mike, and I've never been sure which one is which.
John Skipper, president of ESPN. John, thank you very much.
Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Pick from a range of coverage options with the name your price tool to find a price that works for you.
All right, Mike and Mike, and over the many years we've been doing this show, there are a lot of friends that we've leaned on. And whenever there's been any news in the city of brotherly love, there's only one name that we trust, and that is our friend Sal Paolantonio, who jumps in with us here. Good morning, Sal.
Good morning from the city of brotherly shove, as I like to call it. Especially during Dallas week. That's what we call it around here.
So what do you make of that? Obviously a huge game Sunday night. The Eagles right now looking like the best team in the NFL, and they can really bury their arch rivals this Sunday night.
They can, Michael. And, you know, the Cowboys are hurting, and the Eagles would not like nothing better to close down their season. But these games always come down to the fourth quarter, as it did last year in Dallas. Eagles were up 20-13, and Dak Prescott brought the Cowboys back. But that was a game where they had Ezekiel Elliott and they had Sean Lee, you know. And without Sean Lee, the Eagles believe – I was around NovaCare all day yesterday, and I'll be there today. I think they believe that they can run the football. You know, Lee had 11 tackles last year in that game on October 30th. He led the team two for a loss. You know, he is a total beast in the Luke Kuechly mode, and the Cowboys will be missing him. But this rivalry kind of goes beyond X's and O's. You know, there's a lot of emotion here, a lot of history, as Golic will tell you, between these two football teams. My favorite story comes back down to snowballs in 1989. I was at this game with fans in the 700 level of Old Veterans Stadium, raining snowballs down on Jimmy Johnson on the sideline. You know, they had a contest to see who could hit him from the 700 level. So Johnson gets pelted, but nobody ever gets arrested because the instigator was Ed Rendell, who at the time was the district attorney in the city of Philadelphia.
Yeah, that's certainly not shocking to go on in Philly. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
No, it's not. And, and the fact is that it didn't hurt his reputation in a political career because 2 years later he got elected mayor of the city. So that's the kind of thing that goes on around here.
Well, I listen, Sal. I mean, I agree. I mean, you've seen a lot more of these games than I have. I was part of them for the years I was in Philly, but they were pretty intense because it was Buddy Ryan, against Jimmy Johnson in a number of those. And I mean, Buddy Ryan, for never winning a playoff game, is still one of the most beloved coaches in Philadelphia, just because of that attitude that he had.
Body bags and bounties. That was it.
Mike and Sal Paolantonio. And Sal, I know that both of us wanted an opportunity just to say to you, for all these years, all the fun that we've had, one of my favorite moments ever on the show, when Steve Phillips worked with us, he had been the general manager of the New York Mets, and he told us a story. He said his PR guy came in. He said, I've got bad news and I've got worse news. And he said, what's the bad news? He said, Sal Paolantonio is here to cover us. He said, what's the worst news? He said, he brought luggage.
Yeah.
So, that I thought summed it up about as well. You are the best there is, Sal, and you have been there for us whenever we've needed news and whenever we've needed insight and whenever we've needed a laugh as well. And so we thank you endlessly for that.
Okay, so thank you for having me. I always remember the long line at the Boardwalk Hotel in Disney World down in Florida when you guys would do your show down there at the ESPN zone.
Yep.
And there'd be people at 5 o'clock in the morning, hundreds of people lined up to see your show. And to be on that show and be part of that was, super cool. And I've always loved being on the show, and I've obviously listened to it. And there's a lot of people out there that are going to miss it. They can't believe you guys are going to get split up.
Yeah, it certainly was a bit shocking, but that's what. Now, just look at it this way: you have two different shows to go on, Sal. Once we both get our other shows going,
we want to bring Paulie and Jimmy in there and say, you got to go back. You can't get a divorce. You gotta go back.
Sal, thanks for everything.
Thanks, Sal.
Enjoy the game this weekend. We'll see you soon.
All right, guys. Thank you.
The great Sal Paolantonio with us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today.
I think for both of us, that's one of the realizations to us of this show over the years was when we went on the road, of how it first was when we went on the road, when people didn't know who we were, to actually pulling up to the shows, and it really didn't matter what time zone we were in, to there being a line outside of people waiting to come in to see the show. That always blew my mind, that people were going to take time out of their day, and for some lucky kids, their parents were going to let them miss school, but it was always amazing to me how that happened.
Well, he's referencing the ESPN club on the boardwalk at Disney World.
Yep.
And nothing could better illustrate it than that. We did our shows down there a couple of times our first year together because we were there for other reasons.
Right, exactly.
We did them. There's a little booth in the back of that room.
Booth.
And we just walked in there in the middle of the night and did our show, and literally no one was there.
Nope.
No one knew we were there.
Nope.
No, we could have announced, this is where we are, and no one would have shown up.
Nope.
No one would have cared. And then years later, at the height of ESPN The Weekend and things like that, we'd do the show. And he's right, there would be people that would show up like crazy, and it was fabulous.
I think one of the greatest stories ever was we went to Chicago one year, and this bar that we were going to do it in decided the night before to stay open all night.
Yeah.
Right up to our show. It would have been 5 a.m. there.
Never forget this.
Greeny and I pulled up there in the car, and to the sight of some guy throwing up outside the door.
Directly in front of us.
Just right throwing up there. Guys were drunk at the beginning of the show. You were so nervous at the beginning of that show, and I'm like, Greeny, 20 seconds into this, they're going to be asleep.
Yep.
And sure enough, they were, but they were rowdy before that show. It was unreal.
I wanted the Blues Brothers chicken wire in front of us because it was a rowdy crew. But those were great memories.
Yeah,
Sal is the best. Sean Payton still to come today. Nick Saban and Stu Gatz and Trey Wingo and Adam Schefter and a whole lot more. Coming up next, more reasons why March is going to be the most important NFL month of the year. Next.